Okay. It is Sunday, November 16th. We're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. So if you want to write your, Thanksgiving entertainment program for your guests to keep them busy while you cook your turkey, time's running out. So on
I
that,
don't think we have to write one since you showed us that one in the Timex 1000 last time. I think
that
we're
one was just
good.
pure genius, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that takes about 2 hours to load. So that gets, I think we decided that gets the turkey cooked.
Uh,
So yeah, or I guess no, not really. Only if you want a half cooked turkey.
well, it not only take 2 hours to load, but then it takes, a good 15 minutes to render.
Right.
Although
Uh,
we didn't call it rendering back in the day, just run, I guess. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't have an agenda for us today, although I, I've been spending some quality time going through old user group newsletters. Because one of the things that I want to do is write a book about the Timex community, as it were, right? And I want to talk about, how the ZX80 came to America and how some folks saw that and thought, oh, this is, I don't know if they thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, but they thought certainly this is affordable, and it will get me a computer more quickly than waiting for me, to save up for an Apple or something like that. Um, and so there was a certain kind of folks who, bought the CX80. It wasn't a huge number, but it was something like 50,000 in the United States, I think. And then Sinclair brought out the 81, and that one sold like, hotcakes. They sold 500,000 of them in the US before the Timex contract kicked in, and Timex then took over sales, and they sold, a lot. And then Timex was a little slow, shall we say, in delivering the 2068, and then they brought us this thing called the 1500, and people looked at it and it's like, what is the purpose of this? And people bought that, but also Timex had some deals with like the national what was the name of the education? It was a mail order education place. It was a computer learning course where you would, you know, get a suitcase with a 1500 in it, a cassette player, some cassettes, and 11-ish brochure booklets that taught you computers, right? And then, of course,
Did all those books come at once, or were they the kind of thing that were mailed once a month?
no,
It's
it
kind of
was
those
all in one
all
bundle.
in one.
You bought the thing, and then, you self-paced yourself through it.
I see.
Uh, and then, of course, February came along, and Timex, along with Mattel and various others, said, "Peace out. We're going to lose our shirts, so we're going to stop losing our shirts as much, I guess."
Right.
Um, and then that's when it really gets interesting in the user group world because, there was some amount of wailing and gnashing of teeth, but there was a lot more of, we're in this together. We need to band together. We need to, support each other. And that went on. I mean, it went on for some user groups for quite a long time. Like, for instance, the Capital Area Timex Sinclair user group based out of Washington, D.C. Their first newsletter issue was in, let's see, early 1983, right? So sort of at the peak of the ZX81 world. And their last issue, 15 volumes, February 1997.
Hmm.
That's how long they
Oh,
held on. Uh,
wow.
and then, but
Was
then other
it toward
things,
the end there, were they petering out with the like length, like they two-page issues, or what were they?
I'm going to go there right now, and I'll tell
Oh,
you, it was a 4-page issue.
4 page.
Yeah, which is not too bad. It's funny because a lot of the stuff in that issue is um, stuff that got sent over the internet at the time,
Hmm.
right? So one of the pieces is an article from the QL Hackers Journal, published by our very own Tim Swenson, which is kind of interesting because there was a point in time when Tim was in DC and he was the newsletter editor for Cats. Uh, so there's this, there's a few folks for whom there is a continuum from the start to today, right? Like Tim bought a ZX81 back in the day with his, lawn mowing money, and Tim is still doing stuff today
With his lawnmower money.
with his lawnmower money, right? Um, so that's going to be part of part of the overall story. But I want to trace it from, you know, the early 80s newsletters, the crash and how folks reacted and how they pulled together and the kinds of things that they did in the course of time. Then there was this shift to, to the internet, to the Yahoo groups, right?
You're
And
right.
at the same time, Bill Jones in Florida started this thing called Update, which wasn't tied to a particular user group. It was meant to be sort of national thing, and it covered, the 2068, the 81, 1000, the QL, the Z88. He would sort of print all this stuff and collate it. I think he would staple it, and it went all over the states. He had a lot of subscribers, relatively speaking, and so did the folks in Chicago, largely the folks with the Chicago area Timex users group. They picked up this idea that had been floated in the late 80s of a national Timex user group, and it kind of fizzled out. And at one point, Bob Solger from Chicago said, "You know what? Let's just go ahead and do this thing. We're going to start a newsletter." And they started a newsletter that lasted into the 2000s, went for 13 years or something like that.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I mean, Jeff, some of your Yahoo postings made it into that Cirque Live Alive newsletter.
Oh,
So
so you're
Jeff's
talking
another
about
long
Circle Live
timer.
Alive. I actually got an issue of that back in
Oh,
the
did
90s
you?
or something. Yeah, someone sent me that.
Oh, that's
Because remember
crazy.
I had it in my own newsletter and in exchange for what I charged, he just sent me that. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have any idea who sent you that? Was it
I cannot remember. Yeah, I don't
okay?
remember. I'll note down to see if I can remember who sent me that.
Yeah, I'd be real
Yeah.
curious to hear. Yeah, and Adam, when did you come in? Because you were part of Yahoo.
Yeah, I was. Well, I've always been interested in the Timex computers, because a friend of mine had one in the 80s, and even though we had C64s and we looked down upon the Timex 1000 kind of because it was a little sad in comparison. It was still interesting to me. And then in the 90s, of course, they were everywhere. The even the 2068 I would spot, and I had a couple of 1000s and I had a 1500, and now I got 2068s, but I never really did much with them. I would never went online and looked too much for information about them, but it was always interesting to me because of its like I've said before, its connection because it has a Z80 and I like the Z80. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah. And, Ryan's another, sort of long timer, right? Ryan goes back to the Fort Worth user group. Uh, I still find it hilarious that, that Ryan, you turned up that tape and managed to get some of your, really old programs archived and, and Ryan, I think you said you took a little break at one point.
Oh, yeah, I started in the with the at the very, very end of the US CX81s, basically right as Timex, although I didn't know it at the time, took over.
Yeah.
So I got the last Sinclair stock from mail order in the late 82. And after having saved up, amongst other things, lawn mowing money that summer, um, because we couldn't afford really any of the other machines. And I think that's important. maybe in what you're going to do with the that book is the price of things at any given moment, right? You
Absolutely.
think, oh, sure, you could get a Commodore 64 for $5. It's like, well, no, not then.
Right. Yeah.
So, um,
Well,
yeah,
that was
the
brought up just a couple days ago in the group. Someone posted a commercial for the 2068 from Brendels or something like
Brendels.
that.
Yeah.
Brendels. And
Yeah.
it was like for $159. And someone said, well, how much is that worth now? And
500.
someone said it was $500. I don't know if that's
or
accurate.
almost 500, I think.
Is it? Yeah. It seems
Yeah.
kind of high, but um, yeah.
And that was Christmas of 83. So the computer had already, had been out just a month, and this Brendel's place was able to, sell it at 100. It was 144. I remember that being
Yeah,
the sweet spot.
I think it was common that it was discounted a bit for the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I mean, things were going to be sold at some sort of discount, however much that could be. Um, I don't think that was, certainly wasn't. I don't think that because they already knew they were going to go away. I think it was just a Christmas discount.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. But it made me wonder. It made me think the a little bit about, well, what was the wholesale price of this thing? Because
Yeah, given what what's his name, Danny Ross said, it sounded like it could potentially be pretty low. Although I guess maybe I think well I guess if Timex still had their big margin, I guess maybe the wholesale might not have been super low, but certainly yeah, it could have been uh, pretty low.
yeah,
So
I mean, I
David,
remember. Oh, sorry. Go
You
ahead.
don't have anything like that in your documents on your website, like
the wholesale
wholesale
price?
prices? Yeah.
No,
Oh,
no. I
oh,
would
I'm
love
kind
to
of
find.
surprised.
I would love to find something with. Wait a minute, dealer. Oh, wait a minute. I do have, but it's prior to. Let me think about this for a minute. I do have a document from May of 83, which does list. I'm trying to think what it lists that the price for the kiosk
Hmm.
that they had as $300.
For
Uh,
dealers?
yeah, right. Um, let's see here.
I would have to bet. I would bet it was somewhere around 75 bucks,
You think so?
probably.
Yeah.
Because usually markup on those things is, like 4 or 5 times, usually if they can get away with it. And they probably made, I don't know how many they made initially, probably 5,000 maybe, maybe even
Well,
10,000.
I thought at some point he mentioned the cost to make them.
Well, I'll have to go back and check because I don't recall. I don't recall.
Because, obviously they're going to be doing it in volume. So, I mean, a lot of those chips, in single piece quantities are pretty expensive back then. I mean, relatively, 1980s money, but the Z80 wasn't exactly, a $1 processor. And I think the sound chip was kind of pricey too. So
Yeah, I mean, I remember the sound chip at Radio Shack in the late 80s was like 9.95 or
yeah,
11.95.
$10. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so Ryan, you were saying you started with a Sinclair ZX81, and then you were doing stuff when you were in Fort Worth. Then what happened after that?
Oh, well then, so I used that for just over a year, um, and then got the 2068 for Christmas '83,
Oh, okay.
and then had that until well, I mean, still have them, but used that until, well, I really used that kind of through my first year of college, really, even though for graduation I had gotten a PC Junior, because it took a while for me to ramp up on using that, getting software, and I could just knock out some simple things on the 2068 for those initial classes if I needed
And when
it.
you were talking about school, you were talking about high school or college here?
Well, that was going into college that
Okay.
I used that, but in high school, I actually used the 2068 for my science fair project.
What did
Um,
you, I'm curious, what did you do?
the the advanced chem class we were in, we had to do a science fair project, um, and I couldn't think of anything. And the teacher, he had a magazine that had an article about balancing chemical equations with a computer,
Hmm.
and I basically implemented that. And um, but I couldn't get it to work. I still don't know why I couldn't get it to work on the Apple IIs that we had access to.
Inferior product, I think.
Even though, well, later years, I assumed it was because of the extra precision of the Sinclair floating point, but then everything I found suggested that the Apple II had the same precision. So I'm not really sure what it was, but at some point I brought it home and keyed it in, and it started working on the Sinclair. So I just went forward with that.
Hmm.
Um,
May
Kind
you
of
have pictures
curious.
of this? Do you have pictures of it set up?
I don't have a picture of the setup.
Oh,
I did recover the program in my tape recovery.
Oh,
Um, so at some point I might go back and improve that. The UI was pretty terrible. Um, but
It's
somehow the judge soldiered through it and got it to do it. And yeah, so that was pretty cool. Um, but um, I've forgotten what the original
oh,
question was,
so
David.
yeah, my question. Okay, so you had the 2068, but then you also had the PC Junior, and at some point, probably the PC
Oh,
Junior took over as your
yeah,
main.
yes. So yeah, probably like about a year into college. And then that was like very early shareware time, so going around finding programs for the PC and that kind of stuff, and went off getting into that, and then transitioned to a 286, um, and then finish. Then I finished college, finished undergrad like the end of '89, and I had a semester off over, and um, during that time, and then I guess probably the summer following, I pulled out the old Sinclairs to play with them and started getting into the machine code a bit more because I took another look at that infamous uh, was it Doctor Who, the Ian, what's the name, I forget.
Oh, Logan, Ian Logan.
Logan. Yeah, Logan, the machine code book, which I did not understand when I got it originally, and started to get it and started practicing doing some machine code stuff. And I need to find it in one of the. It's in one of my Sync magazines. I think it is. There was like a little 61 byte machine code routine for the 81 that would read. They would read and write bytes from the port, the cassette port. And of course, when you write there, when you write out to it, right, you're toggling the video.
Yeah.
But it was meant to toggle the video to make a noise, and it was reading from the cassette, I guess whichever one, mic port, to listen to sound,
Hmm.
and then output it back. And I modified that to use all the memory in a loop, and made a really crappy digital delay for the guitar.
Nice.
But they're like really, because like if it was great at playing back, but not so great at playing back when it was also receiving the noise. But yeah, so that I kind of, that's the time period where I did that Thief game.
Okay.
And that was, and then because I was playing with the machine code, so I did a bunch of like stuff with ideas of, you know, for gaming stuff like scrolling pixels, trying to figure all that out. But then, yeah, didn't get too much further after that
But
game.
Thief is purely basic, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I guess maybe it was that I was gonna, go back and then improve things with machine code, but just never got to that.
And at this point, you weren't part of any user groups, correct?
No, I forget. I kind of forget when I came and went from the Fort Worth group. I looked at my newsletters, and maybe I didn't get all the newsletters or something. But I can't remember is if I got attached to them before or after I got the 2068. I know I would take the 81 there, so I might have started in like somewhere in 83,
Yeah.
um, late 83 probably. Um, but it may have been into the 2068 at some point. But I don't remember when I probably kind of dropped off quite a bit after college started in 85. So, but I don't know. It could have been a while after that. Um, but yeah,
I wonder
the
how many. I was going to wonder how many people still have their original, like 1000 or their 2068. I can't remember if I have my original 1000, but I do
Joe
know I have
does.
my my original 2068 that I got for Christmas.
Yeah, I
And
have
I
my
know
original ZX81 that I accidentally fried trying to install it into a different case, and
Mhm.
the basically a power supply lead came loose, and it dropped AC voltage right onto the motherboard
Ooh.
and destroyed it, right? So yeah, I replaced the ZX81 with a TS1000 and started again. But I kept the board and the case and everything, and I it's only been a couple of years ago that I actually went back and I pulled it out of the box and I said, "Hey, I've got all the parts. I could rebuild this." And so
exactly.
I basically took everything off the board and tested it, and uh, the RAM was gone and the CPU was gone, but uh, the ULA and the ROM was still good. So of course I don't think I had the original ROM, and no, I had an aftermarket ROM in it when it got zapped. So I still had the ROM that was good. But yeah, the of all the components, the most seemingly sensitive one actually survived that. So yeah, it's back up and running now. It's
And Joe,
back out in my shop.
when did you get your first Sinclair computer?
Actually, I was looking at the ZX80s right when the 81 came out,
Huh?
and they stopped selling the 80s, and I convinced my parents that I really needed to have this thing, and they said, well, that's gonna be your whole birthday and Christmas if you get this and this memory thing and stuff like that. I go, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, let's just do this because I want to learn about this stuff. So yeah, that had to have been, 81.
Wow.
Do,
Okay.
do
Yeah.
you remember what the memory packs were on offer at that time?
Well, there was
Because
several different ones because I was looking at them in magazines and they had
yeah,
this
because the ZX80s had like some 1, 2, and 3K things, I believe.
Oh, wow.
right.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
right.
But the only one I ever saw besides like the Hunter board for the ZX81 was the 16K, either the Sinclair ones or there was some already cropping up aftermarket ones from England. So
Right.
when they were showing up in the mail order magazines.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point there was that the RAM was so expensive that, like, for the ZX80, I think there was like a 3K RAM pack.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think you could get it with one and then add chips as you could afford them or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an oddball little RAM pack.
Wasn't that a static RAM pack
I
though?
think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's partly why it would be a little more expensive. Those 2114s were not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the Hunter board then, right?
Well, except it was mapped into standard RAM space.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So if you were going to add 1K of RAM, instead of having, because with the 16K RAM board, you'd have 16K when you were done adding the 16K, even if you had like of the 1000 you wouldn't see the 2K, but like if you added a 1K, you'd have 2K then,
You'd
I'm
have two.
guessing with these.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know
Most
what.
my original 1000, that's on that platform on Bruce Taylor robotic thing.
Yeah.
It's up my 1000. I don't know if I changed the video on that or it's just all original. I'm not sure. And I had the 16K from Timex. This is Timex Sinclair 1000 I had. I had the 16K and then eventually I bought the UM16 from Byte Back
Light back.
with
Yeah.
battery backup. And then
Oh,
I had some over the years. I bought a few Memotech stuff. I think I still have a couple of them. It's in the box down the cellar. But I did sold out about, oh, I guess about 10 years ago. I sold the Memotech Centronic interface with the Memotech,
mm-hmm.
and I just sold it. I need a few dollars, so I got $98 for it. And the UM16. I don't know if that worked or not. I just sold it as is $60, and somebody got it, took it. So
Joe and then Mike. Were there user groups that you were involved in when you were, starting
uh,
out or at any point?
I was on Time Design magazine.
Mm-hmm.
User groups. There was one in Long Island.
Long Island
I
Sinclair
forget
Timex
the
user
name of
group.
the company or the user group. They used to have like 8.5 by 11. The guy, I guess, printed out on the TS24 printer and then photocopied onto 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. And like it was like 5 or 6 sheets, and then they just folded in thirds with and either put a staple in it or like a tape, and
Mm-hmm.
then put a stamp on it. I don't know whatever it costs for a stamp, cheap stamp, and that was they melted that way.
So,
And
Mike, but where were you living at that time? Were you
in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
in New Jersey? So,
Yeah,
were there any user groups near you in New Jersey?
no
Okay.
by near me.
Okay.
The only why it was close to me, a dealer close to me was 21st Century Electronics
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
on Polka Street in Gutenberg. And my brother took me over there one day. I figured, oh, I'll go see what the guy has because they had disk drives and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we went over there, and that was a hell of a time getting over there because it's all one-way streets and the streets are narrow. So we finally found a parking spot, and we had to walk. And here I'm thinking there's a store. It's like in a house almost. You go in the front door, you walk in, and then he has a showroom window with a door, and it was closed. So I asked somebody there, what time this guy opens up? He says at night, 6 to 10 o'clock.
Oh,
During the day, he's a baker. He works in a
Interesting.
baking shop, and at night he used to sell this stuff. So I never get back there.
Hmm. And Joe, you said there were no user groups.
No user groups around
No,
me now.
Joe, I was asking Joe, Mike.
Yeah. No, I grew up in a technology desert in a more or less farming community. So yeah,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
I was one of the very few people that even thought about getting a computer, for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Leroy, what was your first Sinclair computer and when did you get it? Your mic's off.
Who, me?
No, I'm asking Leroy. Okay, I'll come back to you in a sec. Let me check with, hey, Larry, how about you? Let's see if Larry's there.
Yeah. I got mine in 81, as a kit, put it together. And of course, I've talked about this before, proceeded to make a miniature hunter board and an EPROM programmer and still got the extended board I originally built with the 44 pin type sockets to
Yeah.
the wide variety. I had an adapter would plug into the back but yeah, when the 2068 came out, I said, nah, it was kind of, nah, I got to start over again. So I
Who
decided to
needs
go with the
color?
wiring.
Who needs
Huh?
sound? Who needs color?
Yeah,
Who needs
exactly.
sound?
I had to start over again with learning more stuff, and which I didn't really know a lot of anyway. I was just a user, type programs in and use other people's stuff. I wasn't a programmer, So I still have mine, but it like Joe, I think I zapped mine somehow or another. Don't know. I fed 9 volts into the 5 volt port, and I've never got to work again. So, but I have some other 1000s and another 81, I think. And I got two of them I use. Well, I got one I've got souped up here, and with a 1500 ROM chip in it, and on my 1000, and some other my joystick port I put together, and my version of Carl's TS15, was it 1510, whatever
1510,
Carl
yeah.
put together. Mine's kind of a mixture of some hardwired and circuit board. So, and yeah, that's me.
And Larry, were there any user groups near you or
Not that I know of. Now, I did take. There was some guy. I think he was a teacher at one of the schools around here. Had offered some basic Sinclair, ZX81 programming. I think I went there one time, so I can only remember once. But no, we didn't have anything. I'm in South Mississippi, so
oh,
you
okay.
know, yeah. At the
Okay.
time, in fact, I still am. I still live here, so not not from here originally, but that's okay.
Uh, uh,
They got with the hurricanes and occasionally, and so yeah.
Oh,
but you said you built the Hunter board. Did you like order the circuit board and build it and or
No, I
should I?
hand wired it. I
You
hand
hand
wired
you
one.
and was it like point to point solder or
Yes, yes, with wiring. Yes.
you
Oh
are an
yeah.
insane person.
I mean, I reverse engineered the 16K RAM pack and did a wire wrap
Yeah.
version, and
Wow.
I still got it, but it doesn't work because I've been trying to just take it apart because I said, what am I keeping it for? It's not good for anything. It's just But yeah, I was kind of say a lot of my stuff. I do a lot of hand wiring. I don't know how many other guys do that, but Carl does hand wiring, or his just on paper, and he builds it and hope it works. I mean, I'm impressed with Carl his projects, but um, yeah, the EPROM programmer. I got with Mike about 10 years ago online. He had bought a bunch of the one of the Sinclair user magazines or something off
Yeah,
eBay, and he sent me the one section I wanted, but it wasn't the one I had put together.
was for EPROM
So
programmer.
EPROM programmer, yeah, I never could figure out where it came from. I don't know if it came from Computer Shopper or one of those kind of what kind of because my days I had was that what was it Sync and Syntax were the two main things I
Yeah.
And
newsletters.
Larry's the one
Yeah,
that got me involved with the ZX band because
yeah, I like the
where I
Zix.
met
Yeah.
him was on the Facebook page. My first computer was a 1000 or something like that.
Oh
That's
yeah,
how
okay.
I met him. He asked somebody, does anyone have like he said, it was a EPROM programmer. article in the magazine, and I had that magazine, so I had a what do you call it, printer, and I scanned it as a PDF, and I sent it to him, and then we talked
What
for a little bit, and after a while, and then I did get a ZX Span, and I had the 1500. I think there's a video out there on I think uh, Timex Sinclair 1000. I was playing Pink Panther. It was Pink Panther and had music and all with the ZX Span. And I had problems first hook, trying to work it. So I wrote a letter to, I got a hold of somehow the email to Sir Moore's, one of the online users thing. And that's how I got him. And we correspond. And then I find out his wife's sister lives in what do you call it, in Belmar, New Jersey, which is only 20 minutes away from me. And what Charlie used to do, he had a keyboard. It was a plain keyboard, and he had like A, B, the letters, and then he had a what do you call it? He had a picture of the Timex Sinclair 1000, the keyboard, and he had to keep on looking at the keyboard and everything. And I show him a picture of the Centronics one I had, and soon I found one on eBay. I bought it and I shipped it right to him. He was happy. He said, "Now I can hook it up." And instead of putting the 1000 in there, what he did, he put a cable on it, and on it, most of his ZX81s, he had a connector where you can just plug the keyboard externally onto the board. So every once in a while I could get a hold of him, but he's out of the media now. And he used to make the ZX81s, the ZX Span with the motherboard. And then when I was talking to him, he told me that he's coming out with the ZX Span Plus. So since I sent him the keyboard for nothing, he gave me a good discount on but I had to pay for the shipping, ZX Span Plus. And then he told me eventually, the last email I got, he's trying to get somebody else to make them because it's too much work for him to build them.
Yep. Yep.
And he mostly works home. He does a programming home at the house, and that's what he's doing.
Larry,
yes.
how did you learn your electronics skills? What was the
Started high school, but it was back in we were doing vacuum tubes.
okay?
This
So
was like
so a few
67,
years
68.
before, all right.
Yeah, yeah. And then I went to military, and I was put into electronics, so that's how I learned more electronics in it. And then later, I ended up becoming an instructor of electronics down here in Mississippi.
Oh,
Teaching basic electronics. Then I moved on to some other stuff later on. So that's where that teaching electronics really helped me learn electronics better because when you're zipping through a class, you got 1 week to learn this material, take a test, move on to something totally different. Another week or whatever number of days it was, and then another test. I really didn't learn as well as I like to until I came back. When we first became an instructor, it was we call self-paced, where
uh-huh.
everybody was sitting and studying at their desk. If they had a question, we had two instructors in the classroom. They'd come up to our desk, sit down, we would go through and explain to it. So that helped me a lot, especially with transistors, because I still didn't understand those quitters because they're so different than vacuum tubes. I mean, one was current controlled, the other one was a voltage control devices. So I was like, okay, so I've been in electronics all my life. After retired, I was 27 years as a TV repair shop. So, which I retired about 6 years ago. So, had enough those days, because price TVs, and then the next year, we had COVID. So, yeah.
Right.
And
Larry, I would
I
like
used
to
to
hear a
learn
story
TV
about
too.
something happening at the TV repair shop. I hear crazy things that can happen with those tubes and things. You have anything like that to say? I mean, if you worked there for 27 years, there's got to be a story.
Oh, Well, I mean, when I started working, because which everything was all chips and transistors. I don't know what kind, you talking about vacuum tubes.
Well,
Oh, rarely
the
ever saw
tubes in the
vacuum.
TVs, because
Oh,
the CRTs.
ah, what crazy stories? Ah, man, I would have to think about that one.
Oh, all right. I
Uh,
thought maybe something would jump to your mind right away.
I mean, other than
Well,
getting zapped by them a few times, yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
I was going to say, Larry, I'm
but
sure you've got some stories
yeah,
about you
I was
getting
shocked
zapped.
many times. But some of the worst ever got was back in the 80s. They used what's called a tripler. They take like 5,000 volts AC, feed it to a tripler device. We did step it up. Maybe it was more than that. I don't know how much the voltage was. They would step it up, the tripler, quadruple it to the picture tube. Well, one day I was doing something, and my finger got right. That terminal it came from the high voltage to that
Ooh.
tripler wasn't covered, and that got me. It burnt the tip of my little finger. I mean, it survived and came back okay, but that still was that was one of the most painful shocks I think I ever had. And that was AC, wasn't the DC voltage. AC is worse, especially high frequency. I guess they consider RF probably range, radio frequency.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, I mean, it was quite an adventure. I mean, I enjoyed obviously if I did like being electronics, I would have been doing a TV shop. I wouldn't be doing this stuff. I mean, how much we still piddle with this stuff, you know. Um, but I'm waiting for Carl to come with a simpler version of his joystick port. Of course, I got mine made already. So let's see if I can turn my video on here. Take the tape off the camera. Layer. This is my version of one that's on Sinclair World or whatever it's called. The joystick port, programmable, the simple program. It's almost laid out exactly like the guy made. Except mine's point-to-point wiring using this double-sided PC board. So, it's yeah.
Well, we got something in common. I learned TVs too. I went to school. My father was an electrician, and he learned how to fix tube TV sets. But I went to school and I learned about solid state and transistor TVs. So, and we built a lot of Heath kits, ICO test equipment, and we also have a Heath kit by Tom's Oregon, and that came in a wooden case, and then every key had assembled. That was a big job.
Good old
Yeah, I
Heath kit,
think
yeah.
yeah, I think most of the guys in our generation, because solid state was pretty much taken over by, the late 60s and the 70s. So I
Yep.
mean, of course there was a lot of tube TV sets, of course, still around back then, but you know, from us being kids and learning, we I don't think we really wanted to learn the tube stuff as much as the new stuff, right? All the solid state stuff. Because I mean, there was ICs coming out, and I mean, all kinds of new electronic stuff coming out, and so the tube stuff was kind of, you know. I mean, it's kind of still nice to know because those the generation before us are pretty much out of commission at this point. So I mean, who's going to repair? Not that there's a huge market for those, but there still is. It's a niche little thing to keep those old tube sets going.
If you can buy tubes.
Although, I mean, I guess you could get a signal to it through a VCR or something. I mean, what do you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could probably composite mod them or something, but just recently, I haven't finished it yet, but I bought the road test thing from this guy in Germany, and it's a computerized tube tester, and it's probably the most advanced tube tester I've ever seen. And he doesn't sell it complete. You have to buy it
From the what?
as a kit,
Oh, really?
and so
You
he
use it
sends
already?
you all the boards and
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you.
And so you have to get all the parts. I mean, he gives you some parts because he has like a Toyota power supply, couple transformers that he'll sell you that they're made specifically for that. But it just hooks up to your computer. It runs a software program and it can track. That's kind of why it's the best one because you can put a bunch of different tubes in it and it'll track everything on it, and you can get a graph, and so you can match tubes and things like that.
That's nice.
Um, yeah, so it's like, I mean, I think all the parts just initially was not cheap. I want to say it's close to $1,000 just to get the part
Oh,
set.
holy crap.
And yeah, because it comes in the case, it comes in a nice case. I guess you don't have to buy that. You can make your own. I know people have done that, but I bought the, aluminum, it's all milled case and everything, so it looks really nice. And then you have to buy all the parts and all the parts and stuff. That's probably another grand to get all the parts for it.
But I'm
So I
confused
probably
here. To test tubes, what are you using? What are you using tubes for in the first place, Carl?
Well, I don't really use them much anymore, but I've got boxes of tubes. My dad had a bunch of tubes that he had over there at the house, and it's just kind of more for nostalgia and to test these things. Maybe because people don't really have a way to test those anymore. We had those tube testers that were in freaking every
Drugstore.
Walgreens around. Yeah,
Yeah.
and those weren't that great tube testers either, but it was a good go no go kind of deal. Whereas this thing tracks, freaking everything. And so, you can really tell how bad a tube is or if it's really, really good. And a lot of these tubes can go for some good money,
Yeah,
you
yeah. What
know.
Carl, I think, is
Yeah,
you
like
need to do here is
switches.
go through his dad's supply and find matched tube sets to sell to guitar players.
There you go.
Put in their amps.
Six
Yeah.
L sixes would be worth money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
1284.
tube.
and there's still places that make them, especially, in Eastern Europe. I guess
Yeah,
they still make the tubes over there, but um, there's still a lot of NOS, new old stock stuff still laying around
still
out
floating
there.
around. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
How do you ship that kind? Aren't they extremely fragile?
Yeah.
padding.
yeah, they're
Padding.
not
Okay, thank you, David.
particularly fragile, but yeah, I
Oh,
mean, well,
Well,
I
think
mean, if
about
you
this,
ship
Adam.
them without the box, because usually they'll come in the box, right? And they're pretty kind of nice. Um,
Well, t tubes are essentially light bulbs. Remember how light
mhm.
bulbs used to come in that sort of
Yeah,
padded
yeah.
cardboard stuff? Tubes used to
So
come in that
basically, it's
padded
just a
cardboard
thin
stuff.
cardboard box,
mhm.
Yep.
tubes in, and then maybe have a sleeve for 5 tubes.
Yep.
And but we have a ICO tube tester we built, and it checks tubes, it checks pitchy tubes, and it's a transistor checker all in one. Um,
Jeff K, you
Yeah,
have been through a few computer systems. Was the Sinclair your first or
yeah, it was my first. I lose track with dates. You guys are good with dates and stuff. All I know is I begged my parents for the TS1000. So yeah, that was the introduction.
that's the common story. I did the same thing. It's like this is what I want. Fortunately, I got it. But yeah, and to Ryan's point, affordability
Hmm.
and what Joe said, affordability was a very big factor. Yeah. So, okay, so you got a 1000
Yep.
and probably in 83-ish?
Yeah, it was probably 83. But then how was it? My uncle won the TI. So that's the problem. I was only in the 1000 for like God, a year and a half or something like that.
Hmm.
Back to my dad's car parts, and then I moved to the TI 99 with the cassette. And I don't remember what database program I used on it. And then I moved to the MyArc Geneve and tried to keep that thing going
I'm not
for
familiar with what that
support.
is. What is
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, and that was the Texas Instruments. How was it? They had the 99 4A, then the 2 that they were trying to get out, the little Timex killer. And then 99 8 Armadillo was supposed to be, what was it?
Are you just
For
making
the
names
TI
up here?
No, no, he's
Professional.
not. It's for real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
but the
think.
2 and
So
the
yeah,
8
so the
never
Armadillo
shipped.
became the MyArc Geneve. So it was like supposed to be like a IBM PC competitor sort of thing. It really didn't have that much support. So since the Timex kind of had support, but the Geneve didn't, I
When
started
you say
pouring
the
more
Timex,
time
you mean
into
the
the Geneve, trying to
4A?
keep it alive. So.
Which Timex had support, Jeff?
Well, at the time, because when I was overseas, the ZX81 had the shoot. I can't think of the user group. Was it ZX Team or something like that?
Yeah, up in
Yeah,
Germany.
so in Germany there was like a big Timex, I mean Sinclair following. So between England and Germany, it seemed like they had support, but the TI and the Meyer Geneve didn't really have the same type of support, it seemed like overseas.
That was
So I
more of a
got more
US thing.
involved with those computer groups. And then I can't remember, but then I missed working on the Z80. So that's what led me back to the 2068. Yeah, yeah. But I like I say, the time frames get kind of mixed up. But anyway, so that's just kind of been working on the 2068 recently. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the Geneva wasn't that just something that was in Europe, right? Because I don't think that really
No,
came
it
out.
was it,
No,
it
it was
was
US based.
God, was it Hottie? Paul Charlton and Peter Hottie, I think. And I think they wanted to sell like 20,000 and they only sold 500 maybe, something like that. And then we had a guy in the community and we bought the MDOS. We bought the MyArc DOS operating system rights so we can modify the operating system. Because the problem was they kept changing the operating system basics. So like when you would write a program in Forth or machine language or whatever, they were changing the API calls and stuff so rapidly that people were like starting to drop off because a program you wrote for this MDOS, it didn't work with the new version. So you had to have like 5 disks for the right operating system for the program you were running. There was a
Mm.
lot of confusion just trying to keep people interested in the computer. So, and
So
even
what
though I
kept you
wasn't as
interested in
knowledgeable
it?
as a lot of the other people, at least I tried to invest money and time into supporting some of the testing for some of this stuff.
What was interesting to you about it? I mean, you seem to have liked it.
Um, well, at the time I was trying to do stuff for the PC. We were moving to what the heck was it? Something at work for the PC, and I could do some of the PC development on it because it had like a kind of a DOS mode sort of thing. It wasn't compatible as it could have been, so I was trying to kind of do it too. So it had a TI-99 4A compatible mode, so you could still run your TI-99 4A cartridges and basic programs. And it was like 5 times faster, I think, because it was a 12 megahertz chip instead of a 4, I think, or something. So I was still trying to support the TI-99 4A while still supporting some of the Geneve specific functionalities while trying to migrate some of the things that people had for the IBM PC that we didn't have for the Geneve world. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I was like trying to do too, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain because nobody knows about it. And I sold mine years ago, so I don't have the Geneva anymore either because you had to have the peripheral expansion box, which is the huge metal box, that when you think the TI-9 expansion.
Yeah.
So, you had to have it to house the Geneve. So it wasn't really something that
Oh.
fit easily on a desk either.
So who made the Geneva? It wasn't TI,
No.
No,
was it?
no, no. I
Yeah.
think it was 2 or 3 engineers that used to work for TI, I think is what it was. And the names escape me. I've got some of the documentation somewhere at the house, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, because I know the 99 4A was pretty much it for TI. I mean, like you said, they did try to come out with the 2A, but that
Mhm.
never saw the light of day.
Right.
They did come out with the CC40 and some other little things, but yeah, that pretty much was it for TI.
Hmm.
It was a 99 4A computer on a card that, as you said, Jeff, fit into the peripheral expansion bus. So
Hmm.
you had to have the big, like, the, it was big, the peripheral
Oh
expansion
yeah, it was
bus,
like
Right.
even
40
for the,
some pounds. I mean, it was built
Yeah.
like
99.
a tank. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was talking
okay.
to Ryan about that the other day because we were talking about Jeff's 2060, which we both agree should not be called the 2060 since it's different, but call it 2061 or something, Jeff. But it's I was like, it's not going to be as heavy as like that TI box, I hope, or anything. Not that it's gonna,
Well,
it's, you
I'm
know.
I'm looking into, bricks and or sheets of lead to fit
Okay.
inside. To give it some heft, like they do with those Beats headphones. They just put it
Oh,
slabs of metal into those to make them seem like they're.
do they really?
Yes, they do.
Oh,
Um,
Same
and
thing with the
we,
minis, the little mini 500 or the the mini Commodore 64. If you open them up, there's
Yeah.
a big chunk of metal in there, just screwed to the case to make it heavier.
Oh,
Mhm.
how interesting. Oh,
Uh, Jeff Burrell, we've talked in the past, as with everybody here, but we talked in the past about your intro. But can you give us a give it to us again?
I was stationed in the UK. I retrained from being an airplane mechanic into satellite communications, and
Oh wow.
I saw the advertisement for the ZX81 in a UK magazine and ordered it, and that was my first computer that I ever owned. Learned to program on a CDC 6600 at the University of Minnesota, but that was several years before. And where I worked, the satellite communication station, they had a real-time spectrum monitoring system that had an HP mini computer, and every now and then I could get in on that and do some Fortran programming. But the 2068 is was my first real home computer, and I kept that. I guess it was 2 years in England, spent a year in the Aleutians, and before I went there, I was able to score a little combination television. It had like I think maybe a 3 or 4 inch CRT and an integrated tape player. So so I had a nice little 2068 system that I could pick up and
like a
take with
luggable.
me. Yeah. So and then after after the Aleutians, I um got a 2068 when I was in Omaha and started playing around with that and wrote some programs. At that time, I was teaching electronics in
Yeah.
the military, and so I started playing around with the 2068, writing programs for for some of my courseware.
Did any of those places did I know there was a user group in Alaska, but I don't think it was on the Aleutians. Did any of those places, you know, was there a user group that you were able to connect with even on the bases?
No, I wasn't, and I think I got into the ZX81 sort of early in its history, so there wasn't a lot of infrastructure there. And then moving around the way I did in the military, I never really had a chance to get plugged into any user groups. I would have appreciated it if I had.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long, you know, were you using your 2068? I mean, at some point you transitioned to something else.
Yeah, let me see. That probably would have been 91 or so. I had a modem hooked up to it and was using it online, and then accidentally I was reaching for something, hit the modem, and it dislodged from the card edge connector, and the
Oh,
2068 didn't survive it. So
oh.
Hmm.
yeah.
Uh, but you joined the Yahoo groups at some point, and you know, were you directly um, communicating with the Circle Alive folks, or was it through email, and largely because of your participation in the Yahoo groups?
Actually, I think what happened there is that the Sir Clive Alive group, I was corresponding with Alvin Albrecht for a
Okay.
while.
Yep.
And I think what happened is that since it was on Yahoo Groups, that it was all considered public domain, which was fine. And they just downloaded it from there, from Yahoo, and put it on the Circle Live Alive. When I found out about that newsletter, I subscribed to it and had it up until it finally folded.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, and I'm not sure, I want to say that sometime in the 90s, I'd actually ordered a Z88 from Tim Swenson, but I want to think it was him, but I don't remember if it was or not.
Hmm.
So I was in the Sinclair ecosystem for quite a while, and I really liked my Z88 because you know, I had a laptop, a PC laptop, but the thing was big and clunky, and the Z88 was nice to just
Yeah, it
carry
was
around.
small, lightweight. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it was like the Radio Shack Model 100, except better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And I I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with the Sinclair computers because and I guess peripherally with Timex. I think Timex did it right, but some of the Sinclair computers were sort of on the edge of being a little bit cheesy. But some of them, like the Z88, I think were really good for their time. It's just that they never took off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the screens on those were just kind of horrible, but yeah.
Yeah, but for what it was, like David said, it was essentially a Model 100, and so you used it, you know, as it was meant, and it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, you could program EPROMs and stick them in it, and it had like this RAM cartridge expansion system as well. And I mean, the program EPROMs, it could program its own EPROMs, which was to me an amazing thing. Because back then EPROMs were what programming was at least two voltages, if not
Yeah,
three. Yeah,
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 because it has, well, I got a couple of them here, but it has three slots in the front, right, with the fold down door. And one of those slots was specifically made for the EPROM programmer.
that's
yeah,
crazy.
So you could basically save your programs or whatever you had in main memory onto the EPROM. That's kind of what it was for.
Yeah.
yep.
And Jeff, you went on to, do hardware design stuff. Um, and at some point, you decided to make some hardware or start designing hardware for the 2068 because I've seen your messages on Yahoo and in the Circ Live Alive. Um, and that was, gosh, I feel like early 2000s, late 1990s.
Maybe early 2000s. Yeah, Alvin and I had corresponded via email, and we're talking about ways of improving the 2068. And unfortunately, at that time, I hadn't really been plugged into the 2068 scene, so I figured, I if I'm going to design something, I'd like it to be for more people than just me.
Mm.
I just done enough electronic design that just doing it, I knew my abilities, but it's more fun being able to ship things off to people and make their life a living hell as well, as you probably well know.
Right, which is the current situation. And yeah, and for those who are not in on that joke, Jeff, Gustavo, Ricardo, Ryan, to a lesser extent me, are
Joe,
involved, and Joe are involved in this project to, I don't know, create as who was it that said don't call it the 2060, recreate the 2060, but with, you know, modern features, modern implementation. Um, and Jeff's the hardware guy, just the one who's creating things and shipping them off to Gustavo and Ricardo and Ryan to create, make their lives difficult.
Well, the big thing that I think that Jeff brings to the table is obviously his FPGA and CLPD stuff, his experience with that. Because I'm kind of a hardware guy too, but I can't do that stuff. So, I mean, I'm not sure I could learn it, but, he already knows how to do it. So that's, when you know that kind of stuff, you obviously can, integrate a lot of things into those, programmable chips and make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah.
well, and not wanting to suck up, but I also like the kind of stuff that you're doing, which is old school TTL, um, doing it the hard way.
Yeah, that's a lot of it is a lot of fun watching you, Carl, as you work through your stuff and you tell us about the updates, and it's, yeah, yeah, what
And
Jeff
I want
said.
to emphasize, David, you're right. It's fun watching Carl do
Yes. It's fun watching someone else do it. And
Yep.
then, and cheering him on. It's like, hey, you gonna have that done soon? Because I want to play with it.
Yeah. Currently, I'm just falling into a bunch of holes right now with this, but that we'll get it figured out.
Get
So,
her done.
but there's not really a rush. B, the whole, the best part about this is that, you're finding things that you're really excited about doing, and actually you're able to pursue it. I mean, like when I was 13, you know, money was the biggest challenge to anything, right? I mean, my friend and I, we would order parts from there was a place called Polypacks in Massachusetts that sold, surplus junk. You'd order a supply of resistors from them, and literally, I mean, it was like it was just this bag full of. I felt like they must have swept it up off the floor of a factory or something. It was absolutely ridiculous, or a bag of potentiometers, and none of them were the same, and none of them were any useful values, and it was just utter ridiculousness. But that's what we could order, right? That's what we could afford. So
Hoping that you'd get something you needed. I don't quite.
absolutely, absolutely,
Oh,
Adam. Yeah, yeah. We'd look at the listing, and it would say, okay, it's guaranteed to have, a couple of these values. And it's like, oh, cool. I need that for my because Radio Shack, you could go buy two resistors or five resistors or whatever, but you'd buy a couple packs of those things, and it would add up quickly. It'd be like, a two pack is 99 cents, but 10 of them, it's like that's $10. Whereas, how am I gonna play video games this week?
Yeah, and ten bucks at Polypacks, they'd roll up with an 18 wheeler and dump stuff
Pretty
off.
much.
yeah. That place is long gone, I assume.
Long gone, long gone.
I have fond memories of ordering, some fond memories of receiving.
Right.
Yeah, and
It was an adventure. It was an
sometimes
adventure.
they had surprise boxes till you buy and you don't know what you get. Poly
Totally.
packs.
Yep.
And another place is B&F Surplus. That used to be another place we used to buy stuff.
Yeah, there was all these
Buy
great surplus
tools,
places back then.
surplus stuff.
Yeah, Radio Shack used to have the surprise packs, the little boxes that you could buy for,
Yeah.
I think they're like
Yeah.
$5 or $10, and just random shit that was in them.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've still got a couple boxes here, but
That's
and then
never been
Jam.
opened.
No, they've been open, but I still have the boxes, and then Jamico still has some of those things kind of now too,
Yeah.
like just a random crap in a bag that
Yeah.
they still sell.
Hi, hello,
When we
Karen.
moved when we moved to Buffalo, we moved to this area of Buffalo that's right near downtown Buffalo. And I don't know how I figured this out, but there was a distributor called Summit Electronics, and it was on Main Street. It was like literally at the end of this street that I would walk to get to the subway station, and Summit had a walk-up window. So you could go in and say, I want, blah, 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 and they'd go off. It was like I think Summit got absorbed into Avnet or what's that one out of Jersey? Um, anyway, but yeah, that they had this. It was way better than Radio Shack because they had the catalog that was 3 inches thick, and you could literally I could go down the street and say I need a bunch of 10K resistors, a bunch of 100K resistors, and pay reasonable prices, not Radio Shack prices.
Hi, hello, Karen. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, you deploy a Wi-Fi modem or something regarding the modem?
Wi-Fi. Maybe you're talking about the Westby.
Yeah, what could be. I don't know.
Uh,
I'm not familiar with your hardware.
yeah, it's not really a modem. It's just it creates a web server so that you can connect to it from your normal PC, and you can dump P files onto the memory that's in the Westby, right? And then of course the Westby has a program that it runs, and then you can just pick them and run them from the
Oh, okay. No, because I'm trying to get more feedback for the community. I don't know what is the facility to use, not at this time a 2050 modem, but any modem, Wi-Fi or Ethernet or whatever, that will be support ANSI escape sequence for
Yeah.
24 by 32 columns or 80 by 24
Yeah,
rows.
well, that's that's certainly not anything the Westby does, but you may be talking about some of these Wi-Fi modems that emulate a modem, right? They're serial devices, but they got a microcontroller behind them, and they just interface all the AT commands, and so they look like a modem, but there's a lot more smarts behind them, and of course they're Wi-Fi too. I mean, why you wouldn't have a phone line nowadays? But maybe you're kind of talking about one of those, like what's
I'm going to put in the chat. There's a ESP32 based modem module that
Okay.
folks have adapted to do all kinds of things, but does fully support the AT command set.
Yes, no, the idea is when you, in the old days, dial using the modem to the BBS, normally the BBS use an ANSI escape sequence to display data in your screen. I don't know if the terminal, the Timex terminal support those sequence.
No, most of them
No?
don't. No,
It's a dumb terminal.
it's a dumb terminal, and it's older than uh those things that were really popular in terms of the opening screens of bulletin board systems later in
Oh,
the 90s. Yeah.
okay. Does not exist any VT100 or similar terminal for Timex?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
no.
Next question.
There's a couple terminal programs, but they are not VT or even VT52. They're not VT particularly compliant.
Oh, okay. My next question is for Chef, because in one of the conference, Chef mentioned that in the PCA or in any solution for video, they support the ANSI escape sequence in hardware. I don't know if this is true or is keep on the actual hardware.
The short answer is yes and no. The I've removed it from the I think I've removed it from the 2060 or whatever we're going to be calling it, Adam. But there is the oh, come on, Jeff, think. Well, at any rate, there is a video terminal that I hijacked from Grant Searle and his project that implements some, but not all of the ANSI escape sequences for I think a VT100. So
Okay.
I mean it has things like clear to end of line and clear screen and things like that, but I mean nothing that might be fancy.
Okay, but could you support, for example, a baseline area screen or cursor location?
It does. It does provide the ability to put the cursor wherever you want. It will save the cursor position one deep. So I'm not sure.
Yes.
I haven't looked at the uh, at the VT100, so I'm not sure how many times you can push that kind of stuff. But yeah, it allows you to do that.
Okay. No, but my next solution for the Timex is not launched today, but in short time. I use 5 or 6 sequence for the ANSI. If could you support in hardware, you could be connect your hardware with my server.
Oh, okay.
Is special application for Wi-Fi modems or with IP interconnection or connectivity.
Well, all I will say is that at least with with this expansion board that we're doing on the for the 2068, yeah, you could it might be better there to just have a separate core that was nothing more than an interface to a local display and to a Wi-Fi to the Wi-Fi module on the board. But yeah, it's eminently doable.
Like a smart terminal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the idea, to support a smart terminal for the Timex, especially it's a VGA because you have the resolution to
Yeah.
put 80 by 25. same resolution that, for example, CPM used for CPM.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be the terminal for the CPM module in the future.
True.
Maybe. Yeah.
In that case, yeah. Yeah.
Not using a serial, but you can use SPI bus to send or receive the characters for the terminal.
Well, in the case of, well, again, that depends on what you want to do with the core. Right now, it's writing to I/O ports. So, um, you know, you
Okay.
could basically
Yeah.
write the BIOS that you needed for the 2068 to do CPM natively, and I guess
Okay.
put it all in the dock bank
Mhm.
so that you don't have to worry
Yes.
about the Timex display.
Or in a slot on the expansion, you could create a new board with a new micro to do this. If you
Um,
connect using an I/O port to communicate.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the TS Pico videos that exists today, there is an 80 column by 24 line mode in the latest firmware update.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, but no, just only for the terminal board. If you put in your 4 slots, 1 slot using for terminal,
yeah,
you connect a new board there. This board use the, the the signals, but if input output port, yeah, perfect.
yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
I don't want to say it's trivial, but it would be trivial.
No, that's only to use the same development board, continue with the actual circuit. You don't need any modification or enhancement. That's only create a new board, fast modem communication or Ethernet communication, and that's it.
Let me
Yeah,
just
but it's,
ask. I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I want to bring. I want to ask Leroy about his computing history before we get too far along.
Oh,
If you,
okay.
are you there, Leroy? You get your microphone this time?
It's working.
There we go. Cool.
Woo!
All right.
Gonna mute the television.
Oh, okay. So what was your first Sinclair computer?
Timex 1000, late 82 or early 83, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And why did you get it?
My boss wanted me to find out what a computer would help us at work with. Uh, we had no functioning personal PC type computers. They were all hardwired mainframe cards, relays, all that kind of stuff. And he got wind that we were going to be doing our own programming, and so that's he wanted me to find out. So I took a class in computers. That's how I got into it.
If I can butt in, David,
Yeah.
Where were you working, Leroy?
Yeah.
At a utility company in Michigan. At the time, it was the largest utility in Michigan. I don't know if it is now. I'm retired. I've been retired for a long time, so I couldn't tell you.
Um, and so how did that work out? I mean, did you hook the 1000 up to the utility system and start running things?
No,
Control
I
a
just
nuclear reactor.
no, I was in the gas end of it. We had nuclear, we had electrical also, and we have had several nuclear plants. But I was in the gas distribution, production, and transmission. I was in the transmission side of the company. Was storing gas and taking gas out of storage when the customers needed gas. But yeah, I didn't hook it up to anything. I just since the 1000 is not good for visual, so I just made a bunch of calculations that would print out the horsepower that our units were generating at the time. Our horsepower curves were horrible. They didn't work real well, and somebody had complained about it. One of my operators wrote a complaint to the company, and the company wanted us to find out how to do it better. So I used a 1000, the Timex 1000, to calculate it, and my boss was very happy with it. And then when I got the 2000, I started making maps so that it would replace the existing computer maps or horsepower maps that we had.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And how But you also did a lot of other things with your 2000.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't wait to get a hard drive system, so I bought the Airco hard drive system with a 64K version at first, and then 3 or 4 months later, I ordered the 256K version. Really happy with it.
We're
Then I
talking about a disk drive system, right? Not a hard drive. Just making sure.
No, it wasn't hard drive. It was disk drive. If I said
Okay.
hard drive,
Just
sorry.
checking. Just checking. I don't know what's out there.
Well, there are hard drives available for some of the computers, but not for mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, Loved it, and the company Airco you'd sell you the disassembly of the ROM, so you could make your own changes to it. If you had a EPROM burner, which I did, I would burn all kinds of versions, see which one worked, which ones didn't work. I'd put in improvements for the hard drive system. I say hard drive, the disk drive system. I'm so hard drive oriented now, but I got probably 35 hard drives here. Lots of disk drives too.
And you did things, I mean, I just some of the things I came across, you adapted or wrote some code that let the Airco and OS 64 coexist so that you could, use 64 column mode for Airco stuff.
Yeah, well, the Airco would support it if you had the software to do it. It wasn't that I needed the right software for it. It was available out there that you could load it and load it back in. But the the 64 column version was not compatible with the Airco's original version.
Mhm.
All I did was make it so we could use all 32K in the dock bank to store the image of the operating system, because the original Airco system only used 16K.
Of the dock bank.
Yeah, of the dock bank, right?
Okay. Okay.
But and which was fabulous for making changes to the system. You could lock out the Airco ROM and just make all your changes to the dock bank ROM or RAM, and go away and do everything you wanted to do with the Airco system. I loved it, but I've got some friends that have other systems and they love theirs too.
What
Leroy,
was? Oh, go ahead.
sorry. No, I use the Arco system too in Argentina. I have the 256 version. And I don't know if the release 8.9 or 9 or whatever. What is the last ROM released for
Nine,
this system?
I believe 9 was the last one that they actively supported. I've made multiple changes to mine. I've got up to 10.6, I call it.
Wow.
One of the problems with their version is they had to have a special version that would support 64K or the Spectrum system, which took up user RAM. They would load it up high in memory. Mine, I changed it so it didn't actually access the function dispatcher or the RAM resident code. I made it so it would, one boot up, it would know if you got a Spectrum loaded or if you got if you're using the Timex ROM, and it would automatically make changes to the Spectrum so it would be Spectrum compatible. So I could use my I was going to say hard drives again. I'd use my floppy drives with the Spectrum system.
Oh, wow. No, I use RPM and using the CPM 80 columns. And
Right.
I create the terminal special for this. And I moved to the CPM with the Arco mainly.
I
Yeah.
got that system too. I got a terminal, so it really goes fast with the terminal.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Leroy, you also then later on uh wrote some code for which of the emulators? Was it the Z80 or was it the
It was I got a note here written down somewhere. I don't remember these things very well, but it's the Warivo. Is that how you say it?
I think so, more
And,
Weaville?
and
Okay.
yeah, the guy that wrote that, he contacted me while I was still employed. When he had heard about that I had made the Timex compatible with the Spectrum It
The
was
interface one.
about, huh?
The interface
No, I
one.
wasn't using the interface one at the time. I was actually using, I forgot the name of the emulator, but I was able to copy half of the Timex ROM into the Spectrum system, and I was able to use it to some extent if I had the version you paid for. A guy in England wrote it. I can't think of his name right now.
Okay.
I ordered that version, and so I was able to monkey around with the code, the first 8K of the Timex, and replace the Spectrum's first 8K. And I was able to use it, everything except, I don't remember what I couldn't. There were certain things that I couldn't do, but I could do a lot that I wasn't able to do with the Spectrum before. And this guy in the Czech Republic, I guess, he found out about it. He contacted me at my email address at work, and he
Mhm.
wanted me to make it so it would work with his emulator. And I spent a lot of time doing that.
And how, I'm just kind of curious, do you remember any details about how you made it work with Boryevo? Sorry.
Well, no, it's all kind of escaping me now. I'm getting too old, but I haven't done that probably in 25 years. But at any rate, it was we would hot swap just like in the Airco system, we'd swap the first 8K in and out
Hmm.
all the time. Make changes to the first 8K. Actually, we did the whole 16K in that particular case. Had to, in order for the whole ROM image to be compatible with his emulator, and we did. And but I'm trying to remember a lot of details. I can't remember everything, but it worked. I was happy with it. And then he wanted me to make some more changes to it, and I made more changes to it. And I thought he was going to distribute it. I sent it all to him, but he never distributed it, as far as I know, the second version.
One of
Okay.
the advantage for the Ergo is use the NMI interrupt to exchange data between the FDC controller and the machine. In every data read for the floppy, it go direct to the memory. That's it, very simple and faster. Yeah,
I like
this
the
is the
Ergo
method.
system.
Yeah, I too. Yes, very fast solution.
Yeah. I'm, the more I studied it, the more amazed I was at how well it works. It's a very nice system. Jack Doheny, he wanted a copy of my Spectrum version so he could distribute it to customers of his so that
Yeah.
they could have Spectrum compatibility with the Airco system.
Oh, nice. Nice.
You told me that Jack had died.
A
I
few
wasn't
years
aware of
back.
that till you mentioned that.
Yeah. 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 He had left the West Coast, moved to Georgia, and then a few years back, I don't remember exactly when, but he passed away. Yeah,
I didn't
unfortunately.
know it till you told me, but he and I used to exchange a lot of mail, and he would send me a lot of software. Just a real good guy.
He was incredibly active. I mean, just, you know, for folks who don't know who Jack Doheny is, he took programs written for the Spectrum, that would be published in magazines in the UK, and he'd update them to work natively on the 2068. There was a word processor called MScript that was supposed to be the Timex word processor. And he updated that over the years. It was originally written for tape, and he updated it to work with, various disk drive systems, added features to it. There's a long list of stuff that he did. It was just
That one supports the 68 column mode too, right?
60. Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
MScript does. Yep.
What the script was for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he was very, very active.
He
And
wrote for.
then go ahead.
I was going to say he wrote for more than the Airco system. He did other systems as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Came up with an interface, a hardware software interface that would let you plug an IBM keyboard into your 2068. That was, one of his things.
Why would you want
Um,
to downgrade like that?
well, what you really were interested there was in the clickiness of the
Okay.
keyboard. That's really the only reason that you, yeah, yeah. Um, cool. Thank you, Leroy. Rich. Hey, Rich, are you available? I don't know if you can hear us or not. Um, Carl. Oh, there's Rich. Cool. Hey, Rich.
Was just a single message away. And what if your doctor was the best?
Rich, can you oh turn down your background noise a little bit? Can you hear me okay, Rich? All right, we'll try to come back. Um, Carl,
Mm-hmm.
tell us about your first Sinclair computer.
Well, as far as I can remember, I think I bought mine at like Albertsons. It's a grocery store that we have here. Maybe you guys have it too, but it was over on Manal and Juan DeBow. I kind of remember taking my bike over there, and I think I had to strap that thing. I had like a little package thing on the back of my bike, above the back tire there that, and some bungee cords. I kind of remember strapping that thing down and riding home with it. But yeah, it was like $100, I think. I don't think I got the RAM pack right away. I think that came later. I really don't remember about the RAM pack, but and I really didn't do any lawnmower stuff. I'm not sure where I got the money to get this thing, but yes, and I don't really know the time frame. Maybe it might have been spring summer of '83, maybe.
Yeah.
It might have been '82. Maybe I had it for another year before, but I do remember bringing that thing home and just learning everything that I could about it. And of course, there's Sync magazine and Timex Sinclair user came out, and there was a bunch of we had a bookstore here called Page One, and they would get all the European magazines,
Oh, wow.
like Eurocomputer, and so they had a bunch of these were real thick magazines, from Europe, from Britain, right? I mean, these things were maybe 3/4 of an inch thick or maybe an inch thick. So there's tons of stuff inside of those stuff. And of course, the 1000 was basically the 81. So you could basically anything they had in there, you could use in the 1000. And then, I did go
Carl,
on.
I do want to say something. You reminded me of something. Since I went to page one often, that's because it was a bookstore, and I was into the Atari. I used to see the even in the '90s, I would see those European magazines because I think the
Mhm.
Sinclair magazines were published until the like '92 or '93, maybe '94, maybe I don't know,
Probably even
really
later.
late.
Yeah.
Even
Probably
later.
even
Yeah,
later
Yeah.
than that.
and
Yeah.
I used to see them. I didn't pick them up, but I used to, yeah, and they used to have Atari magazines from overseas and Amiga
Hmm.
magazines, which I did pick
Hmm.
up, all those
They
things.
had tons of
Yep.
magazines. That was
And
a
even
great
they
store.
like they had new like not newsletters, but like there was like an Atari kind of like a newsletter. They would have newsletter section
Well, I
too.
think, I
Like,
think, because I know I sold some of my user group newsletters there. at,
okay,
at page one. So I think I got the idea, or maybe I saw other user group newsletters there, like you're mentioning, maybe the
yeah,
Atari group or the Commodore group.
sure, yeah,
They were selling their their newsletters for their user groups there as well.
yep,
Because there was
yeah,
a company called Cooper Press. I don't know if you're
no,
in the Heights, but Cooper Press was off of Wanda Boom and all area. But they were a printing press company, right? And so I had them make I didn't have a photocopier. I don't think any kid had a photocopier at their house. So I took my, my manuscripts or whatever, the masters of my newsletter, and I would have them make photocopies of them, and then I would, of course, mail them off to the members, and then I would sell maybe a few over at page one.
oh, that's cool. Was not
So
aware of that.
talk to us about the user group and the newsletter.
So, obviously, I kind of looked and saw if there was some kind of user group here, and I think there might have been something in Cruces, Las Cruces. I think there might have been a group down there,
Is that
but
far
there
away
was,
from where you are or no? I don't.
Yeah,
it's
it's about three
pretty,
hours south of us.
Oof.
yeah,
Okay, that's far away.
it's
Yeah.
a big college town. I think, anyway. So yeah, that was too far away for us. And then I said, well, I'm gonna try and create one here. And so like Adam was kind of mentioning, how do you get the word out? right?
Yeah.
And I know I'm sure I put it into sync. So probably on some of those sync issues, you'll find, the New Mexico
Yeah.
Timex Sinclair user group. Yeah. And because I know I sent it at least to them. And then of course I would, the other user groups, they would always have like a newsletter exchange.
Hmm.
And so you would send them your newsletter and they would send them yours and vice versa, and they would put your group in their listing. And so, I mean, that's kind of how I remember getting some traction as far as getting the word out is that we have a user group here. And I kind of remember there was like a convent or maybe something with nuns, and they would send me some stuff to fix or like some programs. I might still have some correspondence from them. I'd have to look it up, but I kind of remember them sending tapes or things to me because I don't know why, but it was a religious um, environment, where they were using these the 1000s for stuff.
Wow.
And they were not in Albuquerque. They were kind of somewhere around here, but they weren't in Albuquerque. They were probably 50, 100 miles away. But then so I kind of remember them, and then we did have user group meetings. Some of the computer stores locally here, we would go in there, and I think we had one at the school. We had a school up on, I think it's gone now, but I think it was Candelaria and Louisiana. There was some kind of school there. I remember that we would, take our stuff there, and they'd give us a whole huge classroom.
Huh.
And we'd be able to set up things and, our TVs and everything to get to, talk about these things. People would bring that's how I saw ZX printer, was some guy had one and brought it over there to the user group meeting. And so, I mean, I don't have a lot of memories. I mean, but the ones that I do have, it was a good time. A lot of us, there's quite a few of us. I mean, I would probably say at least a dozen people would show up to these things back then.
Where were you meeting? How'd you even organize that stuff?
I'm not sure. I don't recall that, but like I said, I know we met in some schools. I know we met in some like computer stores.
Do you remember which
Uh,
ones? Because there
Yeah.
was like just out of
And
curiosity, like did you meet
corollary
at
to
Computer
that
Bazaar or
is
what's
how
that?
old were you? Were you actually doing all this organizing, or were there other
hmm
folks that were?
hmm So this had to be, 83, 84. So I was what, you know, probably 15, 14, 15,
Yeah.
16. And, I did all the newsletter. Um, I mean, I got some stuff from people that would send in, and I would put it in there, but for the most part, it was pretty much just me doing the newsletter and the user group stuff, and setting this thing up. And, hey, we're going to have a meeting here, next month at this date and time, and, try and get it out there as much as possible. And then, yeah, like I said, we would have pretty good turnouts to most of these things. But I remember the big one, I think, was a school. And like I said, it was on the corner of Louisiana and Candelaria. Um, but I think it's gone now. They tore it down and they've built something else there now. But if you probably go back, you probably be able to look that up and see what school that was. And then
It
the
was part of the
computer,
AP. It was part of APS, or
I believe so. Yeah, it
huh?
was an APS, like an elementary school, but it was a big school. I remember the
Wow.
classrooms that we had; they were huge. I mean, and all glass windows, that would look out, and of course it was an older building, right? I mean, it must have been built in the '60s or something like that. But um, I know we had several meetings there, and then I remember there was a computer store. I don't remember the name of it, but it was on Manal, and San Mateo was kind of cross from Egghead Software when Egghead
That's right.
was
Like
over there on that corner.
yeah,
I don't remember the name of that
gosh,
computer
Egghead. Yeah.
store. Yeah, but I remember it was across the street from them. And we had a meeting or two there because they would have like a little room that we could set up our stuff and have a little meeting.
And Carl, how did you get to the meetings? I mean, was it on your little, your BMX there with the
No, 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 no. These were pretty far away from my house. I'm thinking maybe my folks took me. That's a good question. I don't remember, or maybe I took the bus.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't really remember how I got there and how I got back home, or maybe somebody took me, you know.
Yeah.
Because this is getting into, like again, John Brown probably was around at that time, and I didn't really know anybody else. I think that was really into Timexes that I knew
Mm.
here in Albuquerque. But obviously, we had quite a few people that were here that were that had the 2068 and mainly the ZX81 and the Spectra or the 1000. Um,
Interesting. Very interesting. And then
and then of course,
you did a lot of other stuff. You went to the 2068. You obviously learned machine language programming at some point. I assume
right,
you taught yourself, that is,
pretty
machine language
much.
programming.
Well,
Uh,
I'm a big fan of Hot Z because of Ray Kingsley,
yeah.
and he was up in Santa Fe, right? That's where he lived. So that's about 50, 60 miles north of us. And then he got involved somehow with Art Colgate, right? And I think maybe Art found me through maybe the user group.
Yeah.
I don't really know how he found me, but since I was local, I guess he must have got in contact with me, and I met with him, and he's like, hey, I could hire you to do some stuff on these things, and what would you want to do? And like I said, that's where I got involved with programming that diagnostic cartridge for the 2068 because he had bought, boxes of rejects, I guess he'd call them rejects or returns or something from Timex.
Hmm.
And so we needed some way to test them to see which ones were, good or not. And because he would use those in that 3-axis milling machine that he was, well, he didn't make the milling machine. It was some Japanese or Chinese thing, but, Ray Kingsley was actually writing all the software for that,
Hmm.
to do to manipulate all the motors. And he had an IO board and, that would control all these 483 phase motors
Hmm.
and move the milling machine around to do, so Ray was doing that. And I know Ray would burn my EPROMs for my diagnostic cartridge and send them to me because I didn't have an EPROM burner. So, he would, and of course he let me use, I could use all the Hot Z programs that I wanted because obviously, he made those. So,
Hmm.
and I know I was using the cartridge version because it'd free up all the RAM, right? So you could do everything in the RAM that you wanted.
And you were
Because it
doing
was,
all this with just a tape interface?
I believe so. I didn't have a disk drive system. I never got one of those for the machines. I did have, oh, no, no, no. I believe I was using the A&J microdrive system.
Right.
That's what I was using to save all this stuff. Well, it wasn't a cassette tape, but it was the A&J microdrive. And because he had the 1000 version and the 2000, the 2068 version. And so that's kind of why I'm fond of the A&J microdrive stuff is because, yeah, I was using that. And, all this was, doing it at my house, my parents' house, which I own now. So I still,
Mhm.
have that house. Um, but then, like I said, I remember Timex getting out of the market, and that was a really, that was a stake to the heart. And I don't know how much, I think I must have stayed with art for maybe into 1985, maybe into that time realm. But I really got big into the, my next computer was really the Trash 80 Model 100.
Oh,
I really
nice.
got into the Model 100. So, you guys are talking to Z88 and stuff like that. But, I had the disk drive for the 100. I was programming machine code on the 100. And, that was an awesome machine. And of course, I
What was
never
the
got a
processor in that? Because I don't really know
80,
anything about
8085.
Yeah.
There's an 8085 in there. So
Yeah.
not quite a IBM, but 8080-ish, right? So similar to the Z80, it was you know, in the 80 Z80 is basically the 8080.
hmm
So and it had a pretty good screen. I think the Model 100 had a great screen. It wasn't backlit or anything, but man, it was big. It was a
Mhm.
pretty big screen. And then I never got a Model 200, which had the bigger screen and it was a more of a clamshell design. And then they came out with a 102, right, which was like a slimmed down version of the 100.
Yep.
And then they came out with a Model 600, which was more PC-ish, PC kind of based, and had a floppy drive in it. And I have all those now. I never could afford them back when I was a kid, but I've got them all now. And then there's I don't know what's his name. He lives in the hills of Missouri or something like that. Bert, maybe you guys know Bert.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, but anyway, he's come up with some of these little SD card things that you plug into the serial port on the Model 100, and it basically runs the crash, the TDOS, the Tandy DOS for the floppy drive system. And so it has a battery, and you just plug it onto the serial port, and you put an SD card in there, and now you have all your Model 100 software on your on an SD card.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, that's kind of my, I don't really, like I said, I do have my original 2068 that I got for Christmas, and I know I think my parents paid full pop for that. I don't think, because I remember seeing the ads for it, maybe in the September or whatever they were trying to, of course it was a pre-order at that point, but I think my parents did that, and but Timex was asking the full $200 for it, and then because I have my original box, I know I drilled some holes in my case because I've got some toggle switches on the back, because one of them's for the Spectrum ROM, so I can switch the Spectrum ROM in and out, and I can't remember what the other toggle switch is for. I had to look at it. I'm trying to think what it is, but
The lights in your house.
I don't know. And I know I've got a bunch of cartridges that went into the 2068 that were, I'd stack the static RAMs, the Hitachi 8K static RAMs. You would
Mhm.
actually stack them and solder them all together. And I had a battery backup that was going to those. And so,
Oh my God.
a little switch on the front where you could, write protected or not.
Oh, as
So,
a teenager, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Huh.
And I got them. I think I got a modem. Of course, I got the 2020 cassette. I never got a 1510. I just, kind of think I
Oh,
was,
so were you contacting the local BBSs here in town?
yeah, well, there wasn't really any Timex ones
No, I
here.
don't think there were.
Right. But there was, Commodore 64,
Yeah.
Ataris. And yeah, I do remember, because I remember not buying the CompuServe thing because that was, too much money a month for
Mhm.
that. And so it was just, yeah, like you said, dialing into the local BBSs here, and hopefully the screens would work, because and most of them they'd have like a low res mode or whatever that worked fine for the
Okay.
Timex. But you could always go into a higher res mode if you had a faster modem or more, bigger display or something like that.
And when you said you had the modem, you were talking about the 300 baud? Is that what it was?
Right, the
Yeah.
2050, the
Yeah.
Westwidge. I
Yeah.
think I got it from Art. I think Art let me take one from him or whatever. But I never saw a Timex Sinclair 2050, and I have one now. I think I got it from maybe when Tim was getting rid of Bill's stuff. I think that's one of the modems I got from him. It actually says Timex Sinclair 2050 on it, which is kind of strange. And what else? I never, like I said, never got a disk drive system. Kind of wanted one, but they were kind of pricey for a teenager. Those are 200-300 bucks, I think, even back then. Um, and then I know I probably got about 5 or 6 2068s from Art that are the rejects. So what Timex would do is they would take the sticker off the front, the Timex Sinclair 268 sticker. They kind of gouge them. A lot of them they're gouged out.
Hmm.
They'd stuck something sharp in there, and so they could pull those stickers off. And then on the bottom of the 2068, they'd have that serial number label, right? And so it would say Timex Computer Corp or whatever. Well, they would physically scratch out the Timex.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So they'd leave the Computer Corp on there, but anything that said Timex on it, they would
Gouge it out.
scratch it out or destroy it, right? And so the machines that I've got, I just kept them, I guess. I don't know, but I've got at least 4 or 5 of them, and I have inside the cartridge port, I have my little paper that I would check off all the tests. It's all folded up and stuck in the cartridge port. So you'd, pass, fail, whatever. So then you'd adjust the color
The color, yeah.
fringing right, because like I said, Art got the SCLD schematics from Timex somehow. I remember they had confidential stuff all over them. But I used that to write the diagnostic program because I could see what was inside of the SCLD. So I knew kind of the IO ports that it was using and, what I would do if I was sending bits to these ports, what it would do inside the SLD. And so, I don't know that anybody else has seen those blueprints or schematics. I mean, obviously they exist. Um, but like I said, it was a confidential thing, and I don't exactly know how Art got him, but he probably had to sign an NDA or something from
David,
NCR.
David.
Hang on, Gustavo, hang on.
Yeah.
Hold that thought because I want to switch to Peyton real quickly.
Okay.
Peyton, you're newer.
Yes.
Um, tell us what was your first Sinclair computer and when did you get it?
Yeah, I've tried to think back. I'm guessing it's got to be 98 or 99.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in a non-computer household. We got our first like gateway Windows 95 PC probably about 1997. And so it was sometime after that. So I'm estimating 98 or 99 that I
Oh,
got.
so you were looking for an upgrade from that piece from that PC. I see.
Yeah, exactly. Right, right. And to me, the computers were really used for gaming. The little bit of interaction I had with them. So I had the 2068. I don't remember having a manual, but I had a bunch of cartridges with it, like Casino, possibly Crazy Bugs and Androids. I know I had States and Capitals. I played the heck out of that, and Budgeter. And I was thinking I had Dragmaster, but it looks like that was on cassette only.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I really can't remember having the cassette player or how I would have known, to
How to load
to
stuff.
run the thing because I really don't remember much about it except playing the cartridges.
So is this thing given to you, handed down, or how did you get it?
Yeah, I think, my mom was a teacher and the best I can figure is that it came from one of the schools that she had worked with. And that it was, a surplus unit, not in use because we were already into the PC era at that point.
And okay, so do you still have that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I moved maybe a year or two later, and it seemed like a toy. I didn't understand what its use was, so it did not make the trip with us.
So then there's a period of time where you didn't have anything, and when did you get another one?
Yeah, I all my life I'd told people about this computer I had when I was a kid. I could never figure out what it was, and so sometime in the 2024, I guess, I went searching and kept Googling until I figured it out. And so then decided I wanted to get one and kind of start collecting and learning how to use it a little bit more. So bought my first one back in 2024.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. And what have you done with it since?
I've done a little bit of the walking through the initial, manual, kind of teaching you how to use it. So I'm pretty adept at using the keyboard, I think. I've never really been a programmer. I'm more on the software side of like system administration and stuff. So not really a big programmer, but I have, kind of played around with trying to do some basic programming on it.
We need to turn you into a in-depth hardcore programmer. So we need to give you an assignment of some sort.
All right. All right.
A
We'll figure
Christmas
it out.
program. That's their next one.
Yeah. I mean, do you have I don't remember, Peyton, do you have a storage system that's not cassette?
Yeah, I've got a Pico.
Oh, you got a Pico. Okay. So
Yep,
you can develop stuff.
absolutely.
Okay. So that's a good segue. Our next meeting is Monday, December 1st, which might be a little soon for a Christmas program.
Well,
But
everyone in our area has their Christmas lights up already.
yeah, of course they do.
So
Yeah, we're gonna
I
go look at
I
Christmas
don't know
props.
if it's going to be early.
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, in terms of, it's like 2 weeks away for poor Peyton. But our Sunday meeting in December is the 21st, which would be perfect timing if you could come up with something, Peyton.
Let me see what I could work on. Maybe I'll come up with yeah, a little bit of an idea.
Well,
Yeah.
also there's probably something he could if you don't want to do that, you could type in something that's not been archived. There's
Um,
probably Christmas stuff and from
yep.
David could tell you, not me, but
Yep.
David,
There are programs like that. But also, I suspect in the Spectrum world that there's a bunch of those sorts of type-in programs in like the old issues of Sinclair User or Your Spectrum or there was another one that the name of which is escaping me, as some sort of Spectrum magazine in the UK. All of those things are on archive.org too. I didn't index them because they're Spectrum stuff, um, but yeah, Peyton, if you want some pointers, let me know. I'll do some digging.
All right.
You want a place to start? I can help you out.
No,
so
you
I
know, I
just
like
noticed
having a
it.
challenge and
Yeah.
learning something new, so I'll give it a try.
Cool. Cool.
If the next meeting is not the next meeting, but there's a meeting on Sunday the 21st, I guess I'll miss that one because I will be traveling that day. So, but that's neither
Yeah,
here nor
Sunday the
there for me.
21st. Why would you be traveling? Is there some sort of important
No, not that I can think of.
holiday
No,
around that time?
no.
Okay. Okay. I mean, there's nothing more important than our
I'll
little
make
meeting,
sure
right?
to do it from the airport.
Sweet.
I'll be like, okay, on my cell phone.
I mean, Ryan has done that from various places. Ryan went to the UK and still phoned in.
Well, he's Ryan. I'm just Adam. Okay.
And
He's
I know
cooler than
Dave,
me.
and I know Dave on the first, I'll probably miss that because I'll be, me and the wife will be coming back from Vegas. We're driving back. So yeah, I won't be, I'm not Ryan either.
Yeah.
So
Las Vegas, New Mexico or Nevada?
no, no. Why would you go to Las Vegas, New Mexico?
Well, my mother lives there, so
Well, if you have family there, that's one
yeah,
thing, but I have
yeah.
no inkling to go there.
Cool.
Well,
Gustavo, you wanted to ask. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, the secret is just, data plan.
Yes.
So I've enjoyed this meeting. It was off the cuff, kind of. I feel like that, David, you pulled this together to ask people about their history, but it came together quite well.
Well, and I was going to say thank you all for participating in my research experiment.
Okay, Gustavo.
Oh, yes. No, I have a quick question for David, but for the next meeting. I not have the history. How about the Timex build the first computer, the TS model 2068? What is the facility? Was the decision to, I don't know, send to Korea? I would like to know more about this history. It's the beginning of the history, and of course.
Don't know about the manufacturing decisions, because I don't have any information about those, but I do have, information about the, in essence, the announcement that they were going to make the TS2000, and the time frame between that and when it finally arrived in November. So I can share that. We
Because
can talk about that, sure. Hmm.
the 2068 was actually made in Korea, right? I think the thing says made in Korea.
Yeah.
I know the PCBs were made in Korea, but
Hmm.
I don't know if they were assembled in Korea. I think so, though.
Hmm. I think so too. Yeah. And one of the things that I sort of got my memory refreshed on was that at the time that Timex left, so in February, they had sold fewer than 40,000 units. Um, there were a number of units in the pipeline, and there were something like 90,000 still in Korea, waiting to be brought to the States. So if you do the math, the initial run was probably 200,000 units. Maybe, and now when I say initial, I mean that's only,
Well,
yeah,
the question is mainly because if Timex is a manufacturer of computer,
yeah.
why use a third-party factory to do that. That is part of the history that I'm not much with.
Well, they have factories all over the world, actually. They had, I mean, Portugal was one of many. There was a factory in the Philippines. There was obviously the factory in Scotland. I don't know if the factory in Korea was theirs or someone else. My suspicion is it was probably their facility. They would make whatever in the place where it was cheapest and bring all those parts together into, the place where it was cheapest to assemble them and, from there, sell it. So,
Hmm.
you know,
No, the idea is because
assembly in Korea may have been the cheapest place to do it, or assembly and manufacturing may have been the cheapest place at the time for them to do this kind of product.
no, because one of the Spectrum was manufactured by Samsung in Korea.
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that Samsung factory is the same factory that create or build the Timex.
I would suspect not, actually, because that would cut into profits. But then again, maybe they did. Maybe that's why, they had so much money, that they blew on Timex, the Timex Computer Corporation. They were tens of millions of dollars in the hole at that point.
Yes, but the factory of Portugal maybe is full with the Spectrum or 1000 model or whatever. That's why maybe there's the decision because not sent to Portugal to build the machine. I don't know.
It might have been a size thing, the factory of Portugal was of a certain size, and if you look at the timeline, and especially there's some notes about the release to manufacturing for the ROM being really late, like September or October. And that would have to get through manufacturing and build whatever, and to crank out 100,000, 150,000 units in, a very short period of time would have required a large factory.
Well, and don't forget, the 2068 was kind of a prototype still at that stage. It wasn't done. They needed to get it out for Christmas.
Yep. And they postponed a bunch of stuff
Yep.
as part of that. There's whole sets of it's documentation about features that they, wanted to do, but got postponed because they needed to get it out the door for Christmas. Yeah, to your point, Carl. Yeah. But yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's maybe put that on the list for what we talk about on the next meeting.
Yep.
Because it'd be interesting to see where Portugal made the TC 2068, because it's basically the same thing, but I don't know where they manufactured their PCBs, and maybe they did that all in Portugal. I don't know.
Yeah. I off the top of my head do not recall, but I suspect that they did it themselves. Although I know that sometimes they outsourced the PCB manufacturing. Yeah.
Because the case and everything's the same.
Yep.
Right. So.
Yep.
Carl, do you have a Timex computer? I mean, like a
I
Timex
do. I do have a 2068 and I do have a 2048. So
you do.
I'd have to see, maybe there's something on the PCB that tells it where it was made. But
yeah, why don't you take a look, Carl? And
yeah, I think the computers were made in Portugal, but I don't know where the parts, were made.
Yeah.
No, the question is because your documentation, David, you put on the website, according to the 2068 description of the initial product description, they mentioned a multiple television system, multicolor system. If you see, they mention pulp, NTSC, or whatever.
Right.
And this is the initial computer specs. And the only SCLD that support these specs was made in Portugal. I suppose that the NTSC model was created only for the US market and created on the Korean facilities. Not maybe Timex, maybe a third party facilities.
I'm sorry.
Yes, but I suppose that the 2068 was split in two different ways. One is the NTC only, okay? And another is a multi-system. television system. The multi-system was direction to the Portugal factory, and the NTSC only was created in Korea.
No, the NTSC SCLB was manufactured by NCR in the United States.
Correct, but only for the US market.
Only for the US market because we're the biggest NTSC market there is. Yep.
Okay.
And
And
then,
maybe for worldwide was the idea of Timex use in Portugal, different.
When Timex left the market in 84, they left the market. Not just in the US, but everywhere. And what happened in Portugal was almost entirely independent of Timex corporate.
So they continue along with the computer without
with permission. And part of that permission was because when Amstrad bought the rights to Sinclair, Amstrad thought they were getting a whole set of rights that they actually did not get. And some of those rights were for Timex to sell to Poland, for instance, and certain other countries in Europe. And so they took advantage of that, Timex did, in order to try to recoup some of their losses through their manufacturing facility in Portugal. But because they lost their relationship with Sinclair, they couldn't do certain things. And that's why, that's why one of the reasons why ultimately the Tenet didn't succeed was because they couldn't get the licensing rights from Sinclair necessary to some part of that. I don't remember exactly what the part is. But Timex Portugal was, as long as they were making money, was allowed to continue to do things. But as far as Timex corporate was concerned, there were no more computers to be made.
Exactly. Yes. That's my question: is why the headquarters
we're a bit
closed?
over
We can
time.
talk about this.
Let's talk about this when there's time.
Yeah, because we're already a little bit over time.
Yeah.
Okay, for the next meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
bye.
Bye, guys.
See you in a few weeks.
Yeah, sounds good.